Mistaken I was a fugitive by the time I was 17. I had $23 and $26 when I fled home, and I had to pay my bills, which is why I was dancing in all these tiny clubs. Lola Falana's candid remarks regarding racism in Hollywood led to her expulsion from The Tonight Show. The following day, NBC officials met and agreed that she would never go back. Her career fell apart. She then woke up in 1987 with her left side paralyzed. Multiple sclerosis had appeared. Out of the blue, however, everything changed when she did what she did next. She prayed daily, crawled when she was unable to walk, and had what she described as a miracle. The subsequent change was entirely unanticipated. Most individuals wouldn't make it through the world that Lola Falana was born into. She was born in Camden, New Jersey, on September 11, 1942. She was the third of 6 children, living in a little house with a lot of noise, hardship, and ambition. Her family didn't have much. After traveling all the way from Cuba to serve in the U.S. Marines, her father Bennett took a job as a welder to help pay the bills. Cleo, her mother, sewed garments and used every penny till it broke. Although Lola had a difficult upbringing, it was also full with other treasures. She was able to see beauty even in the midst of poverty because to music, dance, storytelling, and a feeling of culture. Lola had trouble staying motionless, even as a little child. By the time she turned 12, she was not only learning routines, but also teaching them. She began dancing around the home at the age of 3 and singing in church at the age of 5. The family was looking for something better when they relocated to Philadelphia in 1952. Lola made that hope a reality. She put her all into her studies in dance, violin, and piano. She attended classes during the day and performed at night. She blended jazz and Afro-funk rhythms, gospel and tap, in a style that was fresh and exciting. She stood out from the crowd because of her unique sense of style. However, not everyone believed that the risk was worth her goals. She made a decision that rocked her family just before graduation. Germantown High School was where she left school. Her parents were inconsolable. Her father felt deceived because he had put in so much effort to give her a shot. Lola, however, had no desire for safety. She desired a large one. She left without a job, a safety net, or a diploma. Only that she promised herself that if she didn't make it, she would never return. She was not welcomed in New York. She had nowhere to sleep and hardly nothing in her pocket when she got there. She slept in subway stops as a result. Hard seats, cold flooring, and reverberating sounds. She spent some time in that bed. She persisted, though it was an audition every day. There was a different hustle every night. She persisted, continued to push, and continued to perform. People began discussing her. The girl danced as if her life were on the line. To get to the stage, the girl had to live underground. And that tale endured. She became famous as a result. The majority of individuals were unaware of her mother's attentive observation. Cleo would take Lola to nightclubs, seedy places, with plenty of risk, drunks, and occasionally worse, even when she was still a student. For $10, Lola would sing and dance. Cleo was always by her side. She did not want that world to devour her daughter. Even though it worried her, she defended her by standing in the shadows. That choice might have been what protected Lola. She also got a peek of how chaotic and terrible that world could be. She picked up survival skills quickly and never lost them. Then came the turning point in the story. When Lola approached Dinah Washington, one of the most well-known vocalists of her era, at the age of 16, in 1958, she asked to perform. Although it was unlikely, Washington gave her a chance. Lola's swimsuit strap broke mid-song while she was performing on stage. She continued. Despite this, she danced while holding the strap in her teeth. 16 consecutive jates. The crowd erupted. Dinah clapped and giggled. Lola was no longer just another talented girl after that. The most important thing was that she had courage. Her audacity brought her to Atlantic City, where she continued to dance in smoky clubs until she was spotted by Sammy Davis Jr. one evening. He was already among the world's most well-known performers, and he was able to spot talent. In 1964, he cast her in his Broadway production of Golden Boy. Everything altered as a result. For its period, the show was bold. It covered topics like love, race, and everything else that most people were scared to discuss aloud. Lola stood out from the chorus and demonstrated her belonging right there in the center of it. My Baby, her debut single, was recorded by 1965. She first signed with Mercury Records before switching to Frank Sinatra's company, Reprise. That had significance. Sinatra did not support a single person. It was never easy for a black woman to work in the music business. However, Lola did more than simply appear. She made an impression. She demonstrated that she was more than just a dancer and actress by doing television appearances and headlining clubs. She was everything. Sammy Davis Jr. was more than simply her mentor over this entire period. He developed into much more. He introduced her to the entertainment industry's inner circle, managed her, and provided her with coaching. With her debut in A Man Called Adam in 1966, Lola Falana made her cinematic breakthrough. Despite being just 24 years old, she was able to compete with Frank Sinatra Jr., Sammy Davis Jr., Ozzie Davis, Cicely Tyson, and Louis Armstrong. The narrative was passionate and profound. It followed a jazz trumpet player as he descended into addiction and prejudice. Falana was more noticeable, even though she had a smaller role. She wasn't just breaking into show business because the movie dealt with serious subjects. Few black women at the time had access to the world she was entering. The film, which was directed by Leo Penn and distributed by Embassy Pictures, exposed her to a global audience. It was the beginning of something much more significant. During that year, she relocated to Italy. While most American celebrities would have remained where they were, Falana traveled where opportunities were more abundant. She was proficient at speaking and performing Italian in less than a year. From 1967 to 1968, she appeared in 3 motion pictures. One of them, Lola Colt, was the star in a spaghetti western rather than only a supporting character. A gutsy, gun-toting lady of color in a genre that hardly ever permitted such audacious casting. Italian viewers were unable to turn away. She defied all preconceived notions about what a black woman might be by performing live on television, dancing, and singing. She began making appearances alongside Italian music legend Mina on the wildly popular show Sabatoa. There was a magnetic chemistry between them. Falana was particularly charming, elegant, and she captivated spectators with her calm power, unique dancing style, and ability to sing in fluent Italian. They named her Lavena, or the Black Venus. At that point, the moniker conveyed a lot. In addition to acknowledging her beauty, it alluded to the fact that she was unlike anyone they had ever seen. It was unusual for a black woman to dominate television screens, but she did. She evolved from a foreign guest to more than that. Night after night, show after show. Twice, she was named Italy's Performer of the Year. Magazine covers came. Next, her face appeared in advertising campaigns. Fame wasn't the only factor. The goal was to disrupt the pattern. Black women were not previously embraced by European media in this manner. Falana did more than win people over. She changed the story. She soon began traveling around Europe. She was seen by large crowds in France, Spain, and the UK. Her international popularity sparked a trend that inspired other black performers to venture outside of the United States. Not just the work, though, garnered media attention. Falana was closely associated with Sammy Davis Jr. from 1965 to 1968. He was more than just a mentor or buddy. He had a spouse. In America, he and his Swedish wife, May Britt, were one of the most talked about interracial couples. However, Davis and Falana were spending more and more time together behind the scenes. She starred in both his film A Man Called Adam and his Broadway production of Golden Boy. Together, they went on tour. Their relationship was clear. Their love stretched boundaries during a period when interracial marriage was still prohibited in a number of jurisdictions. Everything fell apart after Davis eventually told Britt about the affair. May Britt filed for divorce in December 1968. Although it didn't appear chaotic on paper, the emotional harm was obvious. There was no more family life, she claimed. She was granted custody of their 3 children by the court. The story was picked up by the media. The details were published in newspapers such as the New York Times. It was more than just a split. It was the open dissolution of a marriage that had already encountered racial criticism from the start. Falana was in the center of it now. She was known as the homewrecker. During the height of their romance, Davis hired her a penthouse at the Playboy Club in London. It was more than a present. It was a public display of devotion and a message. Without making any effort to conceal it, the suite turned into their gathering place for elites, journalists, and celebrities. Even Falana's pal Altavis Gore stayed there. Later on, she would wed Davis herself. Although it was difficult to avoid the entanglements, Falana had no desire to be a shadow or a secret. She walked away in 1969. She severed her relationship with Davis on both a personal and business level. She stated in an interview that she would always be recognized as the little dancer with Sammy Davis Jr. if she stayed. She made it happen because she wanted more. She starred in The Liberation of L.B. Jones the same year. Racial violence in the American South was the subject of this daring movie. She was nominated for a Golden Globe for her performance. In just a few years, she had gone from being a side act to the main attraction. Her history still followed her. Though she was more than simply a budding star in many people's views. She was the seductress responsible for ending a marriage. Vegas and Hollywood held on to that tale. Rumors circulated about her ambition, beauty, and power. According to some, she even taught Davis's future wife show business techniques. Regardless of her accomplishments, such labels persisted. They were unable to stop her though. She advanced because of her talent, work ethic, and charisma. Lola Falana's performance in The Liberation of Pound Jones in 1970 was a significant breakthrough in American cinema. It was a statement rather than merely a movie. Black women were not frequently cast in prominent dramatic roles in Hollywood. Falana, however, altered that. She received a Golden Globe nomination for New Star of the Year for her fierce and intense portrayal of Emma Jones. She was standing next to the eventual winners, Marlo Thomas, Jane Alexander, and Carrie Snodgrass. Falana's nomination, however, was noteworthy. It wasn't just another nod for an award. Her first appearance in a big-budget studio movie made everyone in the business take notice. Lola Falana demonstrated that skill could not be overlooked due to color, at a time when black actresses were rarely offered meaningful roles. She took an even more surprising action that same year. Playboy had her pose, because she was the first black woman to achieve so. It garnered media attention. Women of color had been excluded from Playboy for the most of its existence. It used a limited definition of beauty to construct its image. Falana confidently broke that image. Her images were more than just pictures. They have to do with power. She didn't appear timid or obedient. She appeared to be in charge, and that made a difference. Other women of color started to appear in the magazine after her profile. The notion of who could be deemed lovely gradually started to change. Falana opened that door for her. She quickly appeared in periodicals, TV shows, and advertisements for perfume. Her selection by Faber to represent their Tigress fragrance was one of the major turning points. For the first time, a prominent cosmetics firm chose a black woman to spearhead a public relations campaign. Prior to that, businesses either ignored black customers or promoted products specifically for them. However, Falana's presence was uncontainable. "Are you wild enough to wear it?" was one of the daring statements she used in national advertisements. While wearing imitation tiger fur, although it was criticized by some for relying too much on stereotypes, the impact was indisputable. She received a KO prize for her advertising efforts.